Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us for another week. Today we have Stephanie James. Stephanie is a psychotherapist, transformational coach, author, filmmaker, and podcast host. She has experienced what it means to live fully lit up and fully alive. Her personal purpose is to bring as much love and healing to the world as possible. So, welcome, Stephanie. It's really exciting for you to be here today.
Thank you, Kim. I'm thrilled to be here.
Wonderful. So can you tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about how you kind of got started, what your path is right now?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. I've had an incredible 36 year, I just feel so old every time I say that, but 36-year career in the mental health and personal development field. And I would say in the last 6.5 years, my life has absolutely just, I say exploded, but it's bloomed, I guess I could say, in really incredible ways. I always tell people life begins at 50 because at 50, I went from, being I still am a psychotherapist, but just doing private practice to starting my own radio show, which we can talk about later because it was so serendipitous and wild how that happened. And from there, became a filmmaker, have been doing international online events, hosting global summits, and working on I have my first film right now is out. It's been out for a year and a half on Plex Network on the More You channel. It's called When Sparks Ignite, and it just got picked up in December by Humanities Stream, which is Neil
Nice.
Donald Walsh and Steve Farrell's platform. And I just finished my third book. Um, that was just a crazy thing when I interviewed Neil Donald Walsh on my show. Literally, this happened just like 7 weeks ago, Kim. And as I was talking with him ahead of time, we were having just this like heart to heart talk. And he stopped and he said, Stephanie, you're going to write your next book and you're going to start tomorrow. And the title of this book is I'm Dying to Tell You About Death. And I'm going to write the foreword for this book.
Wow.
So it was one of those like life changing, just like amazing moments, extraordinary moments where now here I am, 53,000 words later, getting incredible endorsements from people like Suzanne Geisman and Ken Honda, Steve Farrell, so many incredible. I mean, I could just go on. It's been like this miracle process where my other two books took 9 months each to write. And this book literally was downloaded, divinely downloaded, came through in a little less than 6 weeks.
Wow. That's amazing. And I've heard that story before, like kind of when it's time and that book's within you, it just kind of comes so quickly like that. And that is so amazing. And I look forward to reading it. So that's super
Thank
exciting and
you.
exciting that you've kind of dipped your hand into all these different areas as far as filmmaking and, connecting with all these different people to bring this message that you want to bring forward in life to the forefront. So that's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. And I really do believe that that's, part of what my message truly is. My brand in all these different areas is the spark, right? And it really comes from I had it in a dream when I was trying to think of what am I going to call this new podcast and radio show, and it was like, oh, yep, the spark, igniting your best life. And I could see the t-shirt, the whole thing, and in the dream. And what became a deeper meaning for me is that I truly believe like our spark is that essential essence within us, right? It's that part of us that, like I always say, water can't douse it, wind can't blow it out. It's that some people call it our spirit or the God seed, whatever that is. But that's the thing, that even though we might go through situations and circumstances and things can feel rough and it may feel covered up, it is always there, So our essential work is how do we excavate that spark that is us so
Mhm.
we can not only have more light and love coming through to us, it comes through us then to the rest of the world.
Yes, exactly. So how do we ignite that spark then?
Yeah, thank you. That's such a great question because it's one of the things that I talk about in my latest book, Becoming Fierce. And it really is the one thing that I think people struggle with sometimes is really being a priority in their own lives. And there's this whole section in the book about really how do you start to befriend yourself? Not the old thing of, oh, just love yourself, be your own best friend, which is really nice to say, but more difficult to do.
Mhm.
So it really begins with how do you make yourself a priority? And it's taking time. It starts with learning how to trust yourself to show up for you, because so often we've made all these promises to ourselves and we let ourselves down.
Yes.
And we don't do, we don't go to the gym, we don't meditate, we don't connect with the friends. And so it starts with just little simple ways to start building that trust. The some of the simplest things we can do is wake up in the morning and say, okay, no matter what, the first 10 moments, or excuse me, first 10 minutes are mine. And I invite people to do, there's a great writing exercise, a quick journaling exercise, which is how do I take care of myself today?
Mm.
How do I, and taking care of ourselves, right? Kim, is going to look different every day.
Absolutely. And I like that because I do have a morning practice and my husband sometimes laughs because he's like, okay, here's your coffee, do your thing. Because I just like this is my thing. Like I journal every morning. I do my grateful journal every morning. I pull a couple of cards just to see how my day is going to go. And sometimes those cards will ask questions that I reflect on for my day. But I like that of asking that extra question of how can I take care of myself or how am I going to? I love that. So I think I'll incorporate that into my practice.
Yay. Yeah. I think that that's so beautiful, the practice you do already. And it is because some days how I'm going to take care of myself is sit out on my back swing for 10 minutes in the sunshine and get that morning sunlight on my face, and just let it sink into my soul. I want to make sure I'm committing to doing that, and sometimes it's going to be the way I take care of myself is I'm going to put on some music and dance in the kitchen while I'm getting breakfast ready. I mean, it's kind of whatever that is for us. And we can look, it's not just first thing in the morning you take care of yourself, but like today, I want to really make sure I'm eating the right foods. I'm really committing to be conscious about what I'm putting in my body, or the way I'm taking care of myself today is I'm going to go walk in nature and make sure I'm taking that time, so those kind of things. And so I call this the 3 C's because it's 3 C questions you ask yourself. And the second C is how do I connect? And this can be, we can make this really broad. It's like, okay, how do I connect with myself, or how do I connect with the divine in whatever way you experience that? And how do I connect with others? Because we are interdependent beings. We need one another. And so I always say a text, that's good. Phone call, better. Zoom call, better. And if you can meet in person, that's the best. I mean, we know, like you and I, as we're sitting here together, even though we're online, we're still on a quantum level exchanging subatomic particles. Like we literally are becoming a part of each other. And
Yes.
so this connection is essential,
Yeah, and
essential
I
for our
agree with
well-being.
that. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think we learned that through the pandemic a little bit is like how separated we were and how that really affected a lot of us. And so yeah, and it's funny, I just actually said that to my boys. I said, I'm so grateful that I raised you to be independent kids and right that you've got these beautiful lives that you're going out and doing every day, but I need more connection with you because we've lost that through, just being busy and we need to bring that back. So let's work on that, right? And I think, that was what you're saying is like, how am I going to connect with you? So let's work on these things because, yeah, we so often, I think, let time just slip past and let these people kind of just out of our grasp that we really want to bring that community back in.
So essential. I love that, you invited your boys to do that. I think what an important thing, like you said, is having that intention
Yes.
and really saying, putting it out there, taking action, not just thinking about it. Like, I want you more in my life. Yeah. So such important pieces. The last part is how can I be creative today? And I love this because just building neuroplasticity, ways that we can be creative are like, I'm going to brush my teeth with my wrong hand, or I'm going to take a different way to work. So I'm not just operating on automatic pilot.
Mhm.
And creativity can take all sorts of forms. I mean, it's not about, oh, okay, now today I have to try to be an artist or a musician or anything like that. There's so many different ways of being creative. Literally, one of my favorite ways that I love to be creative is I'll get on Spotify and I'll make a song list for someone that just like it might be joy, or it might be something just to lift their spirits, or even something that maybe is just like, oh, these are love songs, I want to share these with you, these are something that meant something to me and I want to share these with you. So there's so many ways, but the thing is, how do we experience flow?
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that happens when we're in that creative space. Creative space can also be going outside and playing. I'm going to create play and joy and flow in that way. I think those are all really powerful ways that we can do this creative energy. We can practice this creative energy.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because we do. I find actually, I was journaling about that a little bit this morning, was bit like being on autopilot, right? You're just kind of going through life. You're wanting all these different changes, but you're not committing to them. And then, and it's small steps, right? And that's more of what I've been learning lately is it's like, okay, you don't have to do it all at once. You can make a small step. Okay, you want to get healthier, you need to drink more water. Let's just work on that and see how that goes. Let's, then we'll build on the steps, okay. What can you do? 2000? Okay, let's do 2000. Let's not beat ourselves up if we don't get it and just kind of move forward that way because yeah, otherwise you're right. We're just like flying on autopilot and we're missing out on so much, I think, in the world.
Yeah, you think about if you've read the book Atomic Habits, that's exactly what he's talking about. It's what you're speaking of, where you do just these small little habits every day that build on one another. And he talked in that book about a gentleman who wanted to lose 100 pounds. And we can think about these huge, lofty goals of like, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. That's so daunting and can feel so overwhelming that we just give up. So I love that this story. What the gentleman did is he just made an agreement with himself. He didn't have to work out. He was just going to get dressed and go to the gym. That was his first atomic, being like the
Yeah.
atom, like this small little step. And he did that for 2 weeks. It just got him in the habit of going to the gym. He didn't have to work out. There wasn't pressure. And by the second week, he was like, okay, I'm already here, so I'm going to do like 15 minutes. And he just built from there. And of course, eventually he lost all that weight. And I want to speak to Kim to something you said a little bit earlier when you were talking about, we get so distracted in our life.
Mhm.
And we have this world that's always pulling us out of ourselves. And so the 3 C's are a way to really just ground with yourself in the morning. And you don't have to commit to doing like huge things, just like you said. I mean, I might say today I'm going to take care of myself and drink more water.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I might connect today. I'm going to be intentional and I'm going to send an email to somebody that I love, and that's enough. They don't have to be these huge things. They're little bitty things, though, that start to move the needle. And what starts to happen is we start to realize, wow, I am showing up for myself. I can rely on myself to be there for me. I have my own back. I have my own well-being,
Yeah.
at heart. And speaking of hearts, one of the things that I do with my transformation clients and my personal clients is I have them get like a wall calendar or a desk calendar. And at the end of the day, when they have done this small thing for themselves, and in whatever way they're building relationship with themselves. I mean, some people are like, oh, I went to my swimming lesson, or, I met with a girlfriend for lunch and that was my connect piece, whatever that is. At the end of the day, instead of crossing the day out, you put a heart on the day,
I like
which
that.
is like, Yeah, like I showed up and I was loving towards me. And I'm telling you, it seems so simplistic, but that visual is powerful. And you get to the end of a month and you look back and you see all these hearts and you're like, oh my God, I can't deny that I am building this relationship with me.
Yeah, and that's a lot more happy to look at, right? Like, oh my gosh, that, because you're just exuding love from that then instead of this, like really when we're crossing things off like that. I mean, I think the message coming to us is like, oh, there's another day gone. Oh, right? Like what happened that day? We don't even know what we did that day. And I think I love that with the hearts because then it really just brings that you look back at the month and you're like, oh, look how much I accomplished. Look, how much I loved myself, right? And I think when
Yeah.
we start with loving ourselves, it helps us love others better and invites them in. And I think so many people, myself included, sometimes feels like when you're taking care of yourself, it's like a selfish act. It's like, oh, if I take care of myself first, what about, my husband, my kids, my pets, my whatever. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, because I absolutely hear that. I've been there and I feel like that's one of the common messages from my clients. We've all been told, "Oh my gosh, if you focus on you, somehow that's selfish." And you really hit the nail on the head. It literally is about we can be in better service to others when we take care of ourselves. And we've all heard that old adage, you can't pour from an empty cup. And it is really true. Like, yes, I've been in this profession a long time. Did I give to other people? Yes. But let me tell you, even in the last 10 years, Kim, I feel like the more I do my own internal healing work, the more that I do whatever I need. I always feel like, we're these conduits truly for light, love, and healing to come into the world. So as I notice cobwebs, I'm like, oh, there's a wound from childhood or something that's coming up and it hasn't been healed, then I want to do that work that's essential to keep clearing the conduit because then as I heal, like those concentric circles of healing come out from me, and I share that then with the world. And that's one of the essential messages in my life and in my film When Sparks Ignite, which is, the difficult and challenging times that we face can
Mhm.
then become the match point that ignites something within us that becomes our gift to the world.
Yeah.
And on the film poster at the bottom it says your period healing period matters period. And it
Nice.
really is that essential piece that it's actually the least selfish thing you can do. And it doesn't mean that you're working on your healing at, disregarding. It doesn't mean it's one or the other. Like, I'm only going to do me now and everyone else. There can be co-priorities in our lives. It's
Yes.
not black and white. It's just making sure that all this love, all this care you're giving is also in this beautiful kind of, I think of it as an infinity sign,
Yeah.
and that it's also coming back to you so
Yeah.
that you can keep bringing that true essence of who you are, that more authentic you in fuller expression into the
Yes.
world.
Yeah.
That gives up, that helps others heal.
Oh, I agree with that because I use that saying with my stepdaughters all the time. It's like, you got to honor this, but I'm so busy. Well, you can find 5 minutes for yourself. Like my one stepdaughter wants to write a book and help people heal and talk about her trauma and stuff she's been through. I'm like, so write 5 minutes a day. Just take 5 minutes
Yeah.
when you're in the bathroom or first thing in the morning or last thing at night after you put the kids to bed, whatever. Just take 5 minutes because you'll find that 5 minutes will turn into longer because you'll be like, ooh, I can really release. Oh, I'm really enjoying this. Like we make excuses why we can't take care of ourselves and take that time for ourselves. And I think by doing some of these practices and like you said, these little tiny steps and committing to ourselves and things and asking ourselves these important, simple but important questions every day, we bloom and we help ourselves heal because healing is like a spiral thing and we're always, it comes back around. We think we're done and then we're like, oh yeah, okay, well, there was that part I forgot.
Well, and I'm so glad you said that because I think that's an essential piece and something I talk about a lot as well. Because clients will say to me, like, when am I done healing? And I always say, never. It's like as long as you are breathing, it doesn't mean you have to be in therapy forever. But what it means is that exactly what you're saying on that spiral, that's such a beautiful analogy because it does come back. And the thing is, as long as we embrace it, I think when Neil Donald Walsh says, what we resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the truth. So if we're shoving these things down, like, oh, I don't want to feel that, or I don't want to think about that, we are literally creating dis-ease or disease in our
Mm-hmm.
bodies. And so it's allowing those things to come up. And as we like embrace them actually, and we're willing to look at them and shine a light on them, then when they come back around again, it's not in that same way. It's not in that same painful experience, and they do get less and less and less and become less of triggers.
Yes.
I'm an EMDR and trauma specialist as well, so I have dealt in the last 17 years with lots of people that have experienced lots of trauma. And that's the beautiful thing. It's like, yes, will that trauma be a part of that person's life? Yes, but it no longer has to rule their life or dictate how they see themselves.
Yeah.
It no longer has to become that angst, because that's the beautiful thing about trauma work is it separates the incident from the physiological response to it.
Yes.
So I think that the beautiful thing is, yes, we can heal from these things. And the realistic thing is that's always going to be a piece of who we are. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
It's not the definition of us, and
No.
it's something that gets easier.
Yeah, and I like how you say that because I just really love that, right? To know that it's there, but it doesn't have that. It's not the master over us anymore. And we can let that go and, like you say, encompass it and be like, oh, you're my friend, but you don't have control over my life. So, and do you find when you ignite this spark within yourself and you're finding these things within you that you actually radiate that out to other people and help other people find their spark as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that that's been one of the joys for me. I think about a year ago, I did a 3.5 hour workshop for the school district up in Cheyenne. And there were 350 people in the auditorium. And what I loved is not only, I mean, you feel, right, the energy of an audience, you feel that interaction. But during breaks, I just sat on the side of the stage and had people coming up to me. And it was so important for me to really have that human connection. And I would hold their hands and listen to their stories. And it was that, to me, that's one of the most incredible rewards, is hearing someone say, wow, what you said really touched me. And I feel like I can do this now too.
Yeah.
Or, I'm ready to do this work because I know I can heal. Or, or when I get emails back from someone who's read the book or watched the film. I mean, or listen to the podcast. All those things are things that, as you know, Kim, you go, oh my gosh, this is why I'm doing what I do. This is why I've done all this work, because I do believe that. And as you know, when you're around people that are really high vibe, it's not just in our heads. I mean, again, like quantum physics will tell you, you are raising the field for others as well. And we need more than ever right now to be putting this stuff into the world as we're coming into this age of awareness, true awareness, and consciousness raising, that each one of us are important contributors to that.
Yeah, I agree. We just went away to a retreat, and so it was a lot about spirituality and just different modalities of qigong and kundalini detoxing and all these different things. And it was so interesting as far as vibrational things and how energy travels. We were doing one in the qigong, and it was like this chanting, and so everybody was chanting. We all chanted the same thing over and over. And then she's like, okay, I want you to pick the area that you need to heal and chant that. But you'll get the resonation from everybody else because they're going to be chanting different things. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, like I'm thinking as school kids, like, oh, follow this round and they can't get on. So it was really interesting because it started and it was beautiful, but the vibration was so high in the room for the chanting that I had my foot on the floor. I could actually feel my foot vibrating. So to me, that's was such a beautiful way to explain how this energy travels when we're putting out these things that we're so positive about. And, I think that's really important for people to understand that we connect on that soul level and that heart level, right? So I love that.
Yeah, yeah, I do as well. As you were talking, it made me think too of even like I'm a part of a meditation group that meets online. It started meeting online during the pandemic. And my husband introduced me to it. He when we met and were dating, he lived in Seattle. And so when he moved here, we kept doing it online. And it's with this group of people that meet, and some of them are in different countries. I mean, it's all over the world. And when we come together, we once a week. So it's almost been 4 years now. We've been doing this. And we come together on Tuesday nights. And it is one of those things, it always blows my mind. I mean, there's nights where I'm tired and I say to my husband, like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to group, and he starts laughing. He's like, you always afterwards are like, oh my God, this was incredible. I'm so glad I was there. And so we rarely miss, like, we absolutely do our schedules around this night because meditating alone is a beautiful and powerful experience. But as it sounds like, Kim, I mean, there is nothing like being in that collective energy.
Yeah.
And we do like a pranayama breath work that goes through the chakras and then connects up. And I've had some of the most incredible experiences where it's beyond what I could have ever imagined. The energy that lands, yeah, just that deep connection to everyone that's in the
Yeah.
group and beyond. It's extraordinary. I mean, I just can't say enough about how powerful that is. So yeah, I absolutely invite people to join these kind of groups and to do, the workshops. My husband and I were at this awesome, when you said Qigong, we went to this event in Boulder last Saturday, and they did Qigong, and then we did different just breath work, and then moved into a sound healing with sound
Yeah.
bowls, and the guy had like a didgeridoo,
Oh,
and oh my gosh, he came and he like would do it over the top of us. I mean, at one point, my throat was just vibrating like crazy. I mean, I was just like, wow. But again, I mean, such a powerful, it was 2 hours of just, yeah, I mean, you felt like you could almost levitate. The energy was so powerful.
well, and that's how I felt like at this retreat. And I go once a month. This group comes from, they're in Rocky Mountain House and they come around Alberta and they do all these different sound baths. And they've got the gong and he does the guitar and then they'll do the drum and same thing, they'll do the drum right over top of you. And like, it's like, I can just feel it go right through my soul. And so like I go once a month. My husband's like, well, but you always go by myself. I'm like, it's okay. There's people there that they get me. They're part of my tribe, even if I don't know who they are, right? We bring that energy in together and it just resonates through the whole place. And yeah, I go once a month because I love it so much. And it gives me such a sense of getting back into my body and getting out of my mind.
That's so beautiful. It reminds me of the saying of, strangers are friends we just haven't met yet. And the moment we're in those experiences, and when we allow ourselves to do that, you just feel that interconnectedness. It's like, oh yeah, this is my soul family. And the reality is, as we move into those places, I mean, it is true. We are all soul family.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time that I went to the retreat, I went on my own because my husband's like, okay, well, I can only send you. I'm like, that's okay. He's like, right? Are you sure? I'm like, oh, there'll be like-minded people. I'll be good. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. So I went, and it was so funny because you're just at a different level when you go to these things. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me and they're like, do I know you? I said, no, not in this lifetime, but I'm sure we'll get to, be in each other's paths if we have that connection and you're saying that, right? So I just find it
Mhm.
so interesting how if we really let ourselves be open to that, how much connection we can really get from other people.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, yeah. So I love that. And I love how you say that you're, igniting the spark within people because I think that's so important. And I think, everybody needs to find that little bit of something because, I think there's some people that are kind of floating through life and don't really believe they have a spark. They're like searching. They're like, no, there's nothing really important about me. What could I ever contribute to the world? I mean, I'd like to say to them, just being a part of it, you're contributing, right? Your energy and your love. But how would you respond to that if somebody was searching that way and didn't know where to start?
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that also is something it's really common, right? People are searching for their purpose, they're searching for meaning in their lives and like why are we here? And I do think we can get caught in thinking we have to have this big P passion and big P purpose to be living a right life, quote unquote right life. And the truth is it really just starts in the interiors of our hearts. It's my own, and I talk about this in the film. There really was a reality after going through a really painful period of about 15 years from mid childhood to my early 30s where I didn't think I was lovable, and I had had this horrible experience where the positive experience was that I had an amazing 13-year childhood. But then in one night, that totally exploded when my father had said to my mom, I'm in love with another woman and I'm leaving you. And my parents never fought. Like this was, this really golden childhood filled with love and family and I was a total daddy's girl. So when my dad left, I went with him. I mean, I literally was my dad's little shadow. And, like if he was working in the garage on something, I would be like nailing little nails in a block, just to be near him. And he was a professor, an economics professor at CSU. And I would go with him and write on the chalkboard and take the tests that, of course, his economics students took that I could not pass, but they were multiple choice. So I did okay. But um, when we left shortly thereafter, I had a new stepmother who told me very clearly that she considered me the other woman. And so from that point on, I was no longer to speak to my father alone. I couldn't be with him alone. And until the day he died, which was a year ago, December, I wasn't allowed to speak to him alone on the phone. And the pain of that combined with when they moved to Austin and I stayed here in Fort Collins and they didn't speak to me for a year. At 16 years old, the message I took was, I'm not lovable,
Mhm.
right? So I literally carried that, until in my early 30s when I was at a Sufi school in San Francisco and really got this message. Oh my gosh. The presenter on the way in, as we're coming in, shakes my hand. And it was one of those handshakes where he doesn't let go for an extra
Oh,
moment,
yeah.
and they're like looking into your soul and you're like, ah. and and he went up on stage, Kim, and about, I don't know, a fourth of the way through his presentation, he looks into the audience and he says, hey, you in the blue coat, I've got a message for you. And I'm looking around and I look down and I'm like, oh crap, I'm the one in the blue coat, you know? And then the funny thing is he says this message and I can't hear him. And he repeats it twice more and I still can't hear him. And people are kind of starting to laugh and they're like, what is going on? And the third time he repeated it, all of the air conditioning units in the place came on and nobody could hear him.
Oh.
So then everyone is laughing. They're like, oh my God. And he's like, my dear, you have such resistance to this message. He's like, come up here. So I get up and I come up to the stairs. I'm sitting on the stairs by the stage. And he says, what I'm trying to tell you, what's so hard for you to hear is stop trying. Stop trying. Because I was trying so hard to earn love and acceptance and validation outside of myself. You know, if I could just be a good enough student, or if I could just look good enough, or I could just have the right house and the right partner, then somehow I would be okay. And so this is a long response to your question, but the profound thing that happened, it was a turning point in my life where I realized, oh my God, all the strength, all the wisdom, all the beauty, everything I'm seeking is already there inside of me. And it began, you know, this now lifelong relationship with me. And really, I was always a spiritual person. I mean, my whole entire life, but my relationship with and to the divine through me and as me, um, it just became paramount in my life. And there was such a huge shift. And I think that's what I teach people to do, is how do you get in tune with that? Because it's like, we can think of the divine as the ocean, and we are all waves or drops in that ocean. You
Mhm.
know, it's like we're essential pieces of it. And to be in touch with it, I think, I mean, there is breath work that we can do. And it can be literally as easy as closing your eyes, putting your hand over your heart, and dropping from your head into your heart, taking some deep breaths, and start, if you literally, if the audience right now would start to just generate, like, what is something I'm truly grateful for today? It can be as simplistic as the sun in the sky, or that I had hot water this morning. But when you actually have the tactile experience of putting your hand on your heart and dropping into that place, as you begin to breathe in there, you're connected to something that's deeper and more expansive than you. And you don't have to call it the divine. Again, it could be someone's higher power, it could be just their higher self. But there's something that's timeless that exists within us. And the more we connect with that, then the better able we are to transmit, just like you're saying, this love, this joy, this higher vibration in the world. And so it literally can, as you know, it starts just with simplistic things like that. And those are things we can build on.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I love your experience and you sharing that with people, because I think for me what really hit home, well, I could feel it in my heart when you were talking about your dad and going through that. So, you know, my heart goes out to you for having had to go through that. But I also think that that experience that you shared was so beautiful, because it was like, yeah, if you're not listening and you keep pushing that out because you don't want to hear, you can't get that message coming in. And so we need to open ourselves up to that. And like you said, you know, drop into ourselves and into our heart to feel that. So that was beautiful. So thank you for sharing that, because I think
Mm,
that will resonate with people of, hey, I need to start opening up my ears and listening a little bit more, right? Or just opening up my heart, because then your ears will follow suit. So I think
love
that's
that.
beautiful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So if you could leave everybody with one final words of inspiration or wisdom, what would that be?
You know, I really would go back to that exact thing of your period healing period matters, period. That we are each essential golden threads in the tapestry of humanity. And so we're all necessary. We're all necessary for this. And healing is a journey, as we know, and this is not a journey of perfection. This is a journey of that we just keep practicing. I mean, that's what's beautiful. We're all practicing together. We're all, as Elizabeth Lesser says, we're all bozos on the bus. We're all, I love her book, Broken Open. Is one of the things she talks about. It's the thing about we're all interconnected, and life is messy and beautiful and painful sometimes and amazing. And we get through this together. And we can get through this by lifting up one another and then helping each other by igniting our sparks to illuminate the world.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that message. And it's been so much fun talking to you. And we got through all of our technical issues in the beginning, so that was good. And it's funny for me because I can't usually even have my cell phone anywhere near any electricity or anything because I vibrate, I feel like at a different
Yeah.
level, and so it just messes things up for me. So, but anyways, it's been beautiful and a wonderful experience to share space with you. And so can you tell everybody where to find you?
Yes, absolutely. You can go to my website, stephaniejames.world. That's stephaniejames.world. And there's my books are there, the film, um, a trailer, all my events. Anyone can find out information that way. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Stephanie the Spark. And go to humanitiesstream.org and you can download not only my film Igniting the Spark, but I also have an hour feature with Mark Nepo, Natalie Ledwell, Jacob Lieberman. It's called What We Need to Know Now. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I will put all that in the show notes for everybody to be able to find you, and we'll probably include some of your books in our upcoming newsletter after this. And so, thank you so much for sharing space with me today. I'm sorry that my mother wasn't unable to come, but I know she would have just loved this as well, and she'll just have to hear it on replay with everybody else.
Well, thank you, Kim. It's been such a joy to be with you.
Yes. Well, thank you. And everybody else, please come back next week and we'll see you then.